food prices, something we will talk about. Energy prices, you're well aware of what's taking place there. But I want to discuss a bigger issue. Joe Biden has said now for almost 3 years that the border is secure. So have his sycophants. They've said it to Congress on God knows how many times. They've said it to the public through the media. They've said it from the White House. And we have it all. They've said this for years. Then they say we had a bipartisan bill, and we needed that bill to secure the border and to make it more secure than ever before. And without that bill, Biden cannot on his own secure the border. Now, this was a complete screw-up by Mitch McConnell, who gave the Democrats an out, and this guy Lankford, and all the other reprobates in the Senate, that is the Republican rhinos. They gave them a talking point to run on. The genius McConnell. But that's not my point. My point is they said this was the end-all and the be-all. This new bill would actually secure the border after telling us for years the border was secure, despite us knowing it wasn't. Now they're trying a third thing. They've said, look, I can't, says Biden, on my own secure the border. I need the legislation. So we've gone from the border secure, I need the legislation to secure the border because I can't act on my own. And now today, word is the White House is planning several unilateral measures to at least give the appearance of trying to secure the border. Is this what you want from your government? This is okay? The endless lying? And let me tell you something. The reason Biden will take a trip to meet billionaires in California is because he knows that if he can raise hundreds and hundreds, maybe even $1 billion, and that's possible, to run for president, he will overwhelm a Trump. He will overwhelm talk radio. He will overwhelm Fox. He will overwhelm the few independent conservative platforms that are out there. And they know. They know from the 1930s, and they know from totalitarianism of all kinds in the past, and even today, that the big lie, repeated often enough, becomes, in effect, the truth. Not in reality, in effect. And so that's what he's planning to do. He's planning to run for office from the basement. I suspect he won't want to entertain a single debate. They'll say, well, Trump didn't debate in the primaries. What does one have to do with the other? You're running for president now. Not to be the nominee for president. Nothing, but it won't matter. That's what they'll do. And then they'll have these ads speak for Biden as well as his surrogates. And they'll just keep lying. That Joe Biden, despite the fact that the Republicans wouldn't go along, despite the fact that we had the best border bill ever, they wouldn't vote on it. They wouldn't vote on it. So I, Joe Biden, historically, I'm a historic figure. I had to act on my own. And that's what I did. And he'll have his mouthpieces in the media, MSLSD, the Communist News Network, and all the rest. I'll have them. To give them cover, the Praetorian Guard. Just like he announced that inflation is over. The Inflation Reduction Act wasn't even about inflation. It was about climate change and economic socialism. Massive redistribution of wealth, massive government takeover of the private sector, massive, societal engineering, said to be, climate, inflation controlling. And then we get one report, inflation's back, and then we get another one, no, it's back. It's not away. It hasn't gone. The little burps here and there, but it hasn't gone. It's going to get worse because all that money's floating around looking for a place to land, and there's nowhere for it to land. So this whole thing about the Praetorian Guard, the free media, he'll have the free media plus $100 billion worth of paid media. You know, my wife and I, Julie, were talking the other night, and this is very, very important. I don't care what the polls say. I don't care. And then we get people relying on the polls. Look at the polls are great. Folks, I'm worried. The RNC's bankrupt. It's been run into the ground. That's why I did not support the re-election of the RNC chair. But she was reelected, unfortunately. They have no money. Trump's money is being drained as a result of this litigation. That's all intentional. You've got Democrat billionaires with these massive political action committees. You have Republican billionaires who are sitting on the sidelines for the most part, picking their noses, listening to Paul Ryan, who's become an absolute embarrassment. So they're beating us on money and not even close. Not even close. They have 99.9% of the free media. Their groups are well organized. They're Democrat secretaries of state, Democrat-controlled legislatures, Democrat-controlled governors. They're going all over their election laws, seeing what they can tweak or what they can change in the best effort they can make to ensure that Joe Biden wins. You've got state Supreme Courts that are controlled by Democrats that are going to change the congressional seats and the legislative seats. You don't have Republican Supreme Courts doing this. You don't even hear of any. So the Democrats are still playing with brass knuckles, as they did in 2016, as they did in 2020, as they did in 2022, and they're doing it now. And we have an inept Republican leader in the Senate. The guy is a complete disaster. A complete disaster. And he won't step down. In the House, where the action is, we've got so many agendas flying in so many different directions, it's difficult to know what the hell they're going to achieve. The courts, when we have Republicans in the courts, they don't do what Democrats do in the courts. They wouldn't even take up two major constitutional election cases out of Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court, last time around, that needed to be addressed. I'm not trying to throw a wet blanket out there. I am banging the pots and pans. This is a call for attention. Because this is alarming to me that people are now wanting and hoping. Look at the polls. No, don't look at the polls. The polls don't reflect what's going to go on the ground. There was a seat in New York that we lost, the Santos seat. And just to show you how imbecilic the Republicans are, they expel this guy. And the so-called Republican moderates are behind it. This guy Lawler and others. We can't have that. We're Republicans. Meanwhile, in the Senate, Menendez is there. They can't get rid of Menendez. It's 51-49. That means anybody gets sick on the Democrat side, they don't control the majority. So Menendez sits there while he's actually indicted on God knows how many charges again. And there's no pressure. Schumer's under no pressure to remove him or to expel him. But the Republicans expel Santos. I have no special brief for this guy Santos. He's a reprobate. That's not my point. They play hardball politics. We don't play hardball politics. We never have. It is grotesque. One side does, the other side does not. Joe Biden is the leading president of all time on censorship. He's the leading president of all time on violating immigration laws and having an open border. He's the leading president of all time sabotaging our own energy independence internally, domestically, which means empowering Russia, empowering Iran, and empowering the other third world reprobates. He's the leading president in American history to actually support terrorist organizations with funding in Iran, Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, in effect. That's what he's done. That's what he's doing. Now, here's the problem. Don't you think, Mr. Producer, we should be leading this guy by 10%? These national polls, and I know national polls are different. You know, we have elections by states and in states, not national polls. And the polls, as I said, should mostly be ignored. And this is why. 1%, 2% difference. There's nothing built in there for Democrat Party fraud. That's what they do all the time, fraud. Cook County, Texas. Other places notorious for voter fraud. Why no voter fraud here? We had the cleanest election in world history in 2020. Have to listen to these idiots. What I'm saying is, now is not the time to sit on our laurels. If you were going to become involved, get involved. Don't rely on other people, or we're going to lose. You should have your own plan, whether it's to talk to 10 or 20 people you know, whether if you're able, obviously, to make a contribution of some sort. There are 1,000 different things you can do. The question is whether anybody's doing any of them.